Hi, welcome to This Is Your Spotlight. I am your host, Judith C. Roman. This is the March edition for Women's History Month. And this episode, I'm interviewing three dynamic ladies. That's right, folks. One, two, three. Three ladies. I am interviewing Diana Vargas, Judith Escalona, and Miss Amanda Ramirez. Stay tuned and enjoy the show. I'll see you at the end. So, hi, I want to say hello to my very first guest of This Is Your Spotlight. I like to welcome the lovely, the hardworking, she's almost an enterprise unto herself, Miss Diana Vargas. Welcome to the show. Let's see, how did I meet Miss
Thank
Diana?
you.
It's funny, how did I meet Miss Diana? Let's see. I call her Miss Diana even though she's like, no, just call me Diana. You don't have to call me Miss. It's so formal. What am I doing? Teaching children? No. So
That's true that I said.
I know it sounds funny. So how I met her was through the Dominican Film Festival in New York. It was interesting because I always volunteer every year for the festival. Last year, 2020, it shut down a lot of festivals. And yeah, and it was really funny when it came down to the dynamics of the festival, how it would go down because it was just like, okay, who's doing the volunteers? And then it's funny because I was always the one person, do you have enough volunteers? I'm like, yes, here's their names, here's the people. I got you. I need 20. You will have 20. Here you go. I just have to make phone calls. And then I always found it interesting that I was always so calm. Like everybody's like, "Oh my God, can you log?" And I was like, "Whoa, whoa! I know what I'm doing. I got my lane and my corner covered." And on top of that, I also had to do some projectionist work, which means I had to take my laptop with me and go to two locations and show movies, and then come down to the locations. One year, the location was 23rd Street. Then the year before was 42nd Street. And it was funny. The volunteers would tell me, "Where were you?" It's like you've just been this the whole week. You've just been this voice on the phone. I finally get to see you in person. I said, um, there's two other theaters uptown that nobody is worried about, right? I'm the one that has to go get my scanner ready, get the computer ready, speak with the people, and make sure that everything is done and the movies are shown and welcome the public, right? I have to do that as a venue manager. Like, oh, wow, you do so much. And Diana told me once, she goes, Espérate, how come when I call everybody else, they take a while to answer me back? And as soon as I text or call you, you're like, yes, what happened? I don't know. Maybe you can tell the story better. I don't know. So go ahead. So
Yeah.
the
Well,
opportunity.
thank you for inviting me, and congratulations because this is a very, very much needed job and project that you are doing, like, putting the stories of the Latino community out there and making us visible, but also giving the opportunity to people to understand and to learn what we do as a community in the cultural sector of New York. Um, for me, yes, I met you, and as you said, the first impression was that you were very calm. Then I learned your story, and I was more impressed of the multitasking Yuri this Roman that is always there, that is always available, and I always call the Festimilia, which is like the familia of the festival. We become family wherever we do these projects. We are family, and it doesn't matter how many years pass, and sometimes you don't see people for a year or two, but when you meet them, it's like change time hasn't passed or changed anything, and we are connected. because we share the same passion, the same values, and the understanding that the only way that you learn or you can teach people to learn about our community is through art. And movies are a great tool to make people understand who we are. So festivals are a way for us as a community to communicate the richness of our cultures, and to show people that we are so diverse and so different, sometimes between countries, but also even in the same country. You can find so many types of cultures and the manifestations of the idea of people creating that and to create that dialogue. And I think that's important. That's how you and me became so passionate about doing these festivals, and about creating these platforms that allow people to mingle, to know each other, to become family.
So, like you said, you've had about 21 years of experience working with festivals. Has there been an experience that you go like, it went really well? Has there been an experience that you go like, it didn't go as planned, but somehow we made it, we pushed through? This is a mental note that I have to make for next time. Has that happened yet?
Yeah, it happens all the time. For me, the most rewarding experience on after the long hours that you put into it, because as you've been there, you know that a festival happens after many hours that you don't sleep, that you are there constantly trying to make everything that everything is perfect in the end of filmmakers, the films and the theaters and the audience, as you were saying before, that there are four components that you sometimes it can go either way. It could be wonderful or it could be really wrong. Um, and sometimes it doesn't matter how much you plan, there is something that goes wrong, especially these days. It's like technology, because sometimes you plan the movie, you test the film, and for some reason when the projection is ready, and sometimes it happens with the DCP that it doesn't play. It decided for some reason just to stop. 2 years ago we had that. We have it was the opening night. The theater was full. We had tested the theater, the movie before, the day before. We were like, very prepared for everything. And the day before there was a storm in New York, and for some reason there was a lightning, un rayo, and it just something happened with the sound system, and we didn't realize until everybody was there, and we were gonna watch the film, and you can just see the image and no sound. And you are talking about, this is the opening night, the night that you think that everything should be perfect, and I was like, and it's here. It's like I could dream about that many times, but
La fruta, la fruta.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
So, being that this is a Women's History Month episode, who's your female inspiration?
oof, I have many, but I would say that
you can have a top 5, a top 10. It's fine.
Yes, yes. No, but for example, I really love Virginia Woolf because of how she tried to want to write and to persist on that, and to make that as in a moment that it was almost impossible for a woman to write and to have that voice. I like a lot, and I respect Nina Simone because she was a singer also. She was a Black American trying to, and she I think she gave us the path in many ways with her actions to where we are now, like and there is one that it was in the 1600s, Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz. She was a poet. She became a nun because she wanted to write, and she didn't want to have children. She didn't want to get married. She just wanted to study and to write. And then she had to go and become a nun, a monja, just to avoid all of that. But she created these beautiful poems, and there is so much there, that struggle and that. And today I am very grateful for the women that are right now fighting for to have this world in a better way. And it's a world that needs to be more inclusive. We need to create this conversation that is no like men and women, and just we are different, but at the end of this conversation, we have to understand that the only possibility to have a better world is just the two of us talking and respecting each other, and being for each other. And I think that's what is happening in this whole 10 years, I would say, or 15 years, but it goes back to that. But I think in this moment, you and me are very fortunate to be living in it, because I think it's a lot of women have fought really hard to get here and to have us here, being independent and being able to talk and being able to say whatever we want to say. Not whatever, but because sometimes you can't say, you still have those ideas of
Sometimes, when you love somebody, you can overlook a lot of things that you normally wouldn't.
Don't.
Hey, Mona, Sam here. Just returning your call. If you want to go to the drag show, let me know. I'll leave a ticket for you. You know the address. Hope you can make it. You've got to see these dykes.
Hey, faggot! What's going on? Right. Hey, stop!
I want you to be my girl. My woman.
I can't. What's up, Michael?
Your mouth, Mona, telling my woman my business.
Don't talk to Mona like that.
No, shut up.
You mean this shit? No, not this shit. This shit.
Hi, today's guest, as part of the show for This Is Your Spotlight, the March edition for Women's History Month, I have, let's see, the multifaceted, the ever trailblazing, hardworking, unstoppable Judith Escalona, aka my former film professor at CCNY. So welcome to the show. Thank you for agreeing to do the show today. It's very much appreciated. So for those of you who may not know who she is, please tell us about yourself.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for inviting me to be in your show, and I wish you the very best with it. Well, I'm a filmmaker and a writer, and I work at CUNY TV as a correspondent and also a segment producer. And I teach at the City College of New York. I teach filmmaking. And beyond that, I've also made a couple of films, and hopefully we'll be making another one soon. And I'm writing currently a short story. It's a sci-fi. It's like a very unusual sci-fi story, and that I hope to sell. And then I'm recutting. Thank you. And then I'm also recutting one of my films, and it was shot in 16 millimeter, and it's a film that's always haunted me. It's a very unusual film. It's called The Crutch. And I sent you the trailer for it. It's a kind of surreal narrative. It's like very different. It's like a cross between Luis Buñuel and Fritz Lang. And those are two directors that I really love a lot. And and then a film that I'm actually trying to really, I decided to self-distribute, and then I got so busy that I just sort of put my film to the side, although it's won awards at different film festivals, local, national, within this country, but then also internationally. And that's BX3M, which is Bronx 3M. So the BX is the Bronx, and then the 3M is Maria, Mona, and Michael. And it's really about teenagers growing up in the Bronx. And I think you've seen it. It was, it actually was, it was shown in the, the DR, even though it's really Latinos, it's not really specifically Dominican, although they're, of course, it's pan-Latino. They're Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, Argentinians, Mexicans, so it's a whole cast of different Latinos, because that's the way we are. That's the way we live in New York City. More importantly, like BX3M. God, it's just like what happens when you're doing a lot of different things. You kind of, first of all, it creates like some sort of ambiguity about, well, what is it exactly that you do? Well, I do many things. That's one issue. The other is that you start, what are you promoting? How do you promote your work? Well, I do many different things. And I like doing a lot of things, but it does create that problem of saying, like, okay, I'm gonna really promote or push CUNY TV, which is a wonderful station, actually. It's really interesting. And my show, Latinas, the show I work for, Tina Beth is wonderful. She's the executive producer. Tina Beth Piña, as in pineapple, Piña. And so she hosts the show as well as being the executive producer, and she's really a wonderful person to work with. As they all are. Everybody that works on this show is really fun. It's really good. It really is. It really is. And I really, some of my actors from BX3M, they were saying like, yeah, why don't let's make another film. And sure enough, I am sort of itching to do that. And so I have different scripts that are sort of half-baked.
So what's up, man? What up? Listen, what do you want? What's up? Oh, hey, fresh name. What's up? What's up? Fresh name. I got what you want, baby. I got what you want. Hey, what's the rest, legs? Hey, she got some legs, don't she? That's not what I want. You wouldn't know what to do if you got it, bro.
And I was very ill, and I thought I was going to die. So I said, I better start making, start making my films. So the first one I picked was BX3M because it's contemporary. It didn't involve much of a budget in terms of, the locations are the Bronx, and everybody could wear jeans. And so those are always the considerations when you work independently. And so which was a project that I could really put together quickly. Right. And that's exactly what I did. And the actors were great. We did casting calls. I used to have a gallery and I sort of gave it up. But while I had it, I did my casting calls and I saw, New York City has such great actors. So it's very easy to, find excellent talent. And so I was able to cast really good people in the film. And it shows. Like it won awards in Warsaw, and I sent you the press release about that. It won, in 4 different festivals, almost each year. Like each festival that we applied to, it was like it won Best Picture, or my actors won Best Actor. We're nominated at Best Screenplay, Best Director, Best Editing. I edited my own film. Because I couldn't really find anyone to do it on consignment, right? So and it was a good thing actually, and it was a great experience.
What's been your favorite project to work on thus far, and your least favorite? It could be based upon maybe an extenuating circumstance or something happened. So.
Oh, actually, that's like asking a mother, which is your favorite child? It's very much like that. And so each one is different and each one is very unique. And you love all of them for different reasons. And you probably also hate them for different reasons. Or maybe not hate, but feel like, oh. But so I would say it's comparable to that. Like it's really it's just great. Each film has its own being, and the cast, the crew, they're different for the most part, and the only one that was consistent in both of those films and other stuff I've done is like Jaime Sanchez, who was in the Wild Bunch. I mean, he's an elderly actor, so he did a cameo in BX3M. But in The Crutch, he's the lead, and he's really an interesting and very exciting actor to watch on screen. He's very accomplished. I mean, you can see he's a film actor. He knows the camera very well. And so was the case with Maria, the girl Jasmine Caratini, who played Maria in BX3M. She knows the camera. She knows where to turn, how to look, to make sure, she's conveying, and that the camera's capturing what she's trying to convey. And so it does make a difference. But the cast generally was good, and they were excellent. And you know, so I can't really say. I think it's not my favorite. I wouldn't say what is my favorite over the other one, because I love them all, and I love my actors. I love, you know, even when they're a pain in the neck, you know, it's just a great experience. And so I would compare it to like being a mother and being asked, which is your favorite child? I love them all. You know, I mean, I love my pieces too for CUNY TV, and that's more working in the documentary style as a reporter, and it's fine. You know, it's a different. It's still like filmmaking, and it's just a different process. But you're always sort of integrating different techniques from feature films into documentary. I think that's a big no-no. Not really. It's a really thin line between fiction and nonfiction. Again, I just want to thank the festival, Fusion Festival, Steve, Dan, the staff, Colin, Laura, Anisha, Molly, the other Steve. No, I want to thank all of you, really. It's a wonderful meeting also, the filmmakers, and I'm really happy to receive this award. Thanks so much.
Anybody inspirational within the last few years that you could be like, you know what? I think you're inspirational. I think you're motivational. Anybody?
Anyone? Actually, no, I have. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I actually, I think there are different people who inspire me in different ways, because I really, I think it's really a question of appreciating how people struggle. I think that's really important, and we take that for granted. We sort of go, we assume a lot, and it's partly because we're raised on TV and highly commercial work and how things are supposed to be and how they're supposed to look. And when you really observe people, you really see heroes like walking down the street, and they may not look like $1 million. They may look really like simple people, and yet they're really superior because they're engaged, you know, wherever they came from, they made it here. And they keep pushing ahead, even with all the obstacles. They don't really speak the language. They don't look right. And yet, you know, they're there and they're engaged in that struggle. And that's really the inspiration. It's very moving to see that. And I remember first feeling that way with the women who took care of my mother. How unconscious I was with respect to that. And then seeing them, that they were heroes. They made it here, wherever they were coming from, the Dominican Republic. They were coming from El Salvador, Nicaragua, Mexico, wherever they were coming from, and all the obstacles and everything they struggled to just get here and bring their children and work hard. Oh my God, for me, those are the people who are really inspiring.
Hello, and welcome. This is your spotlight. Today's interview is going to be with the multifaceted, the industrious, the ever present. At least I deem her to be ever present, and you're gonna find out for yourself today. Miss Amanda Ramirez. So,
Hi.
hi, everybody. Hola, todo el mundo. Well, how I met Amanda is kind of a networking effect. I met her through Prime Latina Media, excuse me, Mr. Luis Moreno. It's like I was at an event, she was at an event, and at the time, I believe I was promoting a film festival, and then we saw each other on LinkedIn. Like, okay, I see you, girl. You know what? Yes. And she's super supportive. I support her, and she supports me. In terms of, I like what you do. I like what you do. It's like, you could do it better. It's okay. We'll have that conversation when the time comes for it. And I wanted to invite her to my show. So that's how I met the talented Miss Ramirez.
Thank you very much.
So talk about what you do, Amanda. Let them know. Please let them know.
Thank you. Well, I've been working in the industry on and off since college. I started dancing when I was 3 years old, 2.5 years old. And the goal in my head was to dance professionally, but I sustained a series of injuries when I was about 16. And I tried to segue. When I went to college, I decided to be an English major. And somehow I was asked to help translate or assist in the theater festival at my college. I went to LIU Post, CW Post in Brookville, and every year the theater department picks a different theme. They reached out to me, or they reached out to a professor in the English and foreign language department if there was any student that could assist them with the then theme, which was Festival of the Americas. So they were featuring works from Garcia Lorca, Garcia Lazo de la Vega, all this stuff from like Cervantes, and they were trying to adapt it and also pick out specific works in Spanish and have the English translation, but to help them along. So one of the professors said if I wanted to do it, I said, okay, sure, no problem. And then I, as an ambassador to the school, inadvertently, I met the lovely, God rest her soul, Miriam Colon. People that don't know who she is, I don't remember, she was Mama Montana, Tony Montana's mother. She's done so much, but so she did the Puerto Rican Traveling Theater, and I met her, and I was her like student ambassador. And I was very nervous because I knew who she was. And I just remember she was about my mom's height. I'm about 5'6", 5'7". My mom's about 5 feet, 5'1", and she was roughly the same size. And I couldn't look at her in her face because this is Miriam Colon. Like, people didn't understand why I was fangirling. And she's talking to me, and I'm being her escort around college, and I wouldn't look at her. And she got mad. So she goes, "What's your problem?" And she just grabbed my face, and she's like, "You need to start looking people in the eye when you talk to them." I thought, well, I'm a big fan. She goes, "You should never be intimidated." She goes, "Even people that you admire, you should never be intimidated." So that was a wake-up call. And then the same thing happened when I was in the dance department, the same thing. And it was this time I was stage managing a high school competition that the dance department decided to do. So my mentor from college, Cara Gagano, asked me to stage manage. And it was also for me to get what filmmakers do it, film students and theater students have to put in lab hours. So outside of your classwork, it's kind of like not really an internship. This kind of predates internships that you have to put hours in the department. Right. That it's kind of like, not slave labor, but it's like sweat equity. So I did that, and the same thing happened, but this time it was Judith Jamison, who was the muse to Alvin Ailey, and then she was the then director of the company. And the same thing happened. I was nervous, and I could look at the woman, and this one, she was the opposite. She's about 5'10", maybe even taller. And she was held my hand, and she's like, you seem nervous, and I go, I am. She goes, why? I go, you're Judith Dems. So her big claim to fame was the piece Cry, the variation Cry. And she's like, oh, and she said the same thing here, like, you should not be intimidated by me. She goes, put my pants on one leg at a time. I go to the bathroom like you. I have bad days. So I graduate, and I wound up dancing for a DJ company. So there's probably videos of me dancing at someone's sweet 16 or a bar mitzvah somewhere.
A DJ company?
Yes, a DJ company, a remote DJ company. And they would hire dancers to get like the audience going, or they would have like,
you were the hype person. He was a hype person.
Yes, I was a hype man. I was a hype man. And with that, I wound up being asked to audition to dance on MTV, because at the time, I think it went from Club MTV to The Grind. So I'm really dating myself.
Yeah.
And I wound up on there.
Remember
and
that. I remember those days.
I was on MTV, and then I met connections at MTV. And then also when I was in college, I don't, they probably still do it now, but they used to like go to, like, they would audition, or they would go to colleges to see if there was any talent. And I remember auditioning for a movie. I think it was a Susan Seidelman film called Cookie. I think the part wound up going to Ricky Lake, but I remember getting recommended from the theater department, because I transferred from English to theater. And I remember auditioning, and I remember getting, I don't know if it was a final callback, but I remember they auditioned at school, and then I had to wind up going into the city. And like I said, that part wound up going to Ricky Lake, if I remember that, because it was the best friend. Perfectly fine, but I learned a lot. And also the same thing happened in school. They were auditioning for MTV for a trivia game show. And I went to, like, if you went and I just went along with you just to keep you company, and like, well, if you're going to be in the room, you have to take the test. Okay, so I took the test, and it was all like movie-based trivia, current events, things like that. And it was called Remote Control. That's another thing I just did.
Oh wow, Remote Control.
Yes. Dang. Yes, and yes, I'm old. I just
I used to. Here's the weird thing. I used to flip through channels. At that point, in the 90s, cable was affordable. Now it's just ridiculous. And I used to watch MTV a lot. And especially the one thing I remember from MTV were the shows, like the golden era of Singled Out, and you have the Real World, and then you had the Real World Games, and before that you had Love Line.
All that stuff. Yeah, that's our generation.
And then they tried to do like what you're talking about, Club MTV and MTV Grind. I'm like, Soul Train did this. Like, why y'all trying to do what Soul Train did with the dancers? Like, again.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did it like, it was a generational thing, because you had like American Bandstand, then Soul Train. I mean, but Soul Train lasted forever. I mean, some of those dancers were there for like a decade if you go back to that. And then, MTV tried to do it, and they did it instead of like music, they intercut it with videos, and that's how they got away with it. But prior to that, I wound up on TV before then, on Remote Control, and I wound up not on the one that was on MTV. It was the syndicated version. So for New York area, I think it was PIX was the one that picked it up, and it was like Saturday mornings or Saturday afternoon.
Right.
So, and then I'm trying to think. And then I got, unbeknownst to me, I was wound up in the union because I got background work on a soap opera called Another World, and then I got what they call bumped. I got bumped because it turns out the person that they would do like under 5. So an under 5 meant that you had under 5 lines, but sometimes that was like a reaction shot. So it might not have been a line, but it was like exactly like a main person would talk to you and you would just respond. So I wound up getting bumped. So basically what I'm trying to say is I was at the right place at the right time. And I'm not trying to discredit people that work hard, but there were times that I just got really, really lucky. I was just at the right place at the right time. I was like, okay, you know, and sometimes it didn't work out for me. Like I said, that movie Cookie didn't work out for me, but I definitely learned the audition process.
Right.
And what that was about.
Right.
So, you know, it was just one of those things where also I got to learn that sometimes they go with a name. Not knocking Ricky Lake, but she was coming off of Hairspray, not the musical, the actual movie.
Right.
So,
by John.
yes, you know, by John Waters. So, you know, they went for a name. And that's how it turned out to be. Or I think it was being shot at the same time. I forget. But like I said, she was a name. So it wasn't like she was just discovered for this. And had a baby. I graduated college, had a child, and then I started working on Madison Avenue as an executive assistant. And I worked for a television syndicator, for lack of a better phrase, that you buy commercial time. You have a show, they try to match you up with the advertiser. And I learned advertising. I learned what marketing was all about. And I apply it to today, if something's marketable, if it's not. And I think that also helps me process how things go.
Right.
And went from there, and I started, you know, working, and I was just on and off working. What got me to the other side of the camera was during the writer's strike back in 08. I had a show idea, and my then colleague and I filmed it on our own. So if you had a restaurant, I had a restaurant scene, I was going to use it. I used like a warehouse and made it look like it was an apartment. And it didn't go anywhere, except that it did cross, and this is where our connection is. What happened was I got an email to submit it to, at the time, a few years later, at MTV Latino, which wound up being MTV Tres, or MTV Internacional.
Right.
And that's where I met Luis Moreno. Luis was on the executive side of trying to hear pitches, basically. So I had to pitch my show. And the irony is, it was on March 17th, which is St. Patrick's Day, and it was a hot St. Patrick's Day. So I just remember that I was head to toe in black, like the typical New Yorker, dressed in black, trying to be sleek, and it was unbearably hot. So I'm going into this audition, and I'm literally in the public bathroom with grabbing sea folds and like drying myself off because it was hot. And I was nervous on top of it because I never pitched a show. I wrote this thing, we shot it, it wound up in 2 festivals. But the problem was it went nowhere. It languished because the Writers' Strike rather, read, you know, Children's Hospital and, you know, whatever predated Funny or Die, because people just wanted to keep busy. Kind of like this whole world of Zoom. You know, people wanted to be creative. So they took this outlet and they try to make it work. And we're also talking celebrities, not just you and I. So, you know, here I am. And they liked the premise. They were trying to see how it was marketable. And here's where my marketing hat went in. I'm like, well, if you did it this way, you can incorporate this and that. And at the time, I think the show that I was pitching was about a party planner, about a girl that switches careers, or a woman that switches careers, and she wanted to plan parties against her parents' wishes because her parents wanted her to make money. Not unlike my story as far as being creative. I was like, you got a kid, knock it off, raise your kid, feed your kid. So we were, at the time, it was like My Crazy Sweet 16. I'm like, well, you can incorporate it live, but it would just be like, you know, we can spoof it. And they loved the concept. But once again, fate had a hand in it. And the channel got canned. meaning tres or international, whatever entity it was at that time, they did away with it. So they didn't have the budget for it. And I no longer write with that person anymore. And it was just like, just waiting it out. And but you got to meet people, you got to run into people like you and I met peripherally. And the first big project was someone had approached me to help them write a pitch about a biopic for Roberto Clemente. Friends with the Clemente family, and there was talks that they wanted to do a biopic, but at the time, God rest her soul, Senora Vera was very, very protective of her husband's legacy. So I'm a huge fan of baseball. My dad's from Puerto Rico, taught me how to play baseball. So I started doing research. And in the process of doing this research, what had happened was I came across a baseball documentary, reached out to the director, Eric Susinen, and I cold called him, I cyber stalked him, reached out via email. He responded back. We met at a Starbucks in Brooklyn, and he basically said that he needed funding post-production. So we spoke, and we're still working on that. Hopefully it will happen. But we started working on that. Simultaneously, I was also going through physical issues. Like turns out that it was just I was allergic to medication, but it just affected me so badly that it affected me emotionally. Weight went up, weight went down. It was crazy. And then I started again cyber stalking. WebMD is the devil, and because when I went to the doctor,
WebMD, by the way. No offense to WebMD. Sorry.
Listen,
just
that thing will scare you. Okay, disclaimer. It will put thoughts in your head. So when I did that, the doctor says, okay, I'm going to test you and I'm going to keep it real. She's like, I'm going to test you for this, and this types of. She goes, because your weight's really fluctuating. We don't know what's going on. It turned out it was a hormonal issue, and it was regulated or associated with medication. Now I'm just, my weight's my own problem. It has nothing to do with that. It is just it. So in the process of doing the same thing happened. I came across an article about a movie. It was IndieWire, and they were announcing this movie about a girl with myelodysplastic syndromes, which was what I was getting tested for and what my father was diagnosed with when he was getting treated for colon cancer. And what MDS is, it is a disorder of the blood that, if it's not treated, turns into cancer. So some cancer patients, when they're getting treatment, that's an adverse effect to the treatment. Because it is it's severe anemia. So if it's not treated properly, it can turn to leukemia, it can turn, various types of disease.
Right.
So they were trying to raise money on one of the fundraising sites. I don't want to say which one.
Hold on.
Reached out to them, and then I kept in contact with one of the producers, and they were like, hey, we're shooting in New York. What are you doing? I went up, I worked on the film, basically like a glorified PA.
Oh dear.
Met the director.
Oh dear.
Well, I had my Jeep at the time, and I was like at one point taking like the line producer to set because the PAs were out with the trucks, and I had a Jeep, and in the morning I would get coffee and donuts from wherever. So what I'm working on right now is basically getting post-production funding for the baseball documentary. We had to take a pause on it because anytime you show a baseball player in a uniform, that costs money. And depending on the team, it's all, owned by one entity, but we're getting closer to that. So that basically the history of baseball in Latin America. And right now, I mean, I work for a live event production company. Because of COVID, that got scaled back and pretty much shut down. And what I did was I kept myself busy with taking online courses and costume design and things that I was interested in. So I was interviewed by a woman named Donna Drake. She was highlighting one of the films I was working on, and that was a few years back. And the film got sold. It's on Amazon. Great. And then she switched studios. So she's created her own physical production studio. And she invited me over, and she needed help to get, certain things taken care of. And in the process of doing that, I'm freelancing there. So I'm an associate producer on a talk show. I've worked on talk shows in terms of rehearsal. So this is my first time. What you do in this element is what I'm learning to do now, as far as, pre interviews, gathering research, gathering media to match the interview, rights and clearances, or if necessary. So that's what I've been doing since January. It's freelance, it's not full time. We shoot once a month. And like I said, I've learned a lot in, like, I only do talk show rehearsals, as like either stand-in or production, but I've never done a talk show from the front end of it. It's always not so much the back. Well, shooting might be the back end, but the rehearsal part, shooting is more back end besides post production.
Right. Okay.
So that's what I've been doing.
All right.
And trying to stay safe.
No, yeah. I think that's everybody during COVID. Everybody's trying to stay safe and just trying not to get anything. So out of all the projects you've done thus far in your illustrious career, and it's ongoing anyway, it's still ongoing. Every day we're alive and we're doing something to just leave a footprint of saying, I was here, I did this, I did that. Do you have a least favorite project or a most favorite project? Like, is it because of the workload involved? Was
Okay, I can talk about the least favorite because I think as well, told you I danced, and I remember going to an audition for a movie to be featured as a dancer, and it was bad because when and this is not just me personally, this was the dancers. When the dancers know more than the choreographer, that's a big problem. And I say that because it was a situation where it was about who she knew. She knew the director, and I guess she gassed up the fact that she was a dancer. And the rehearsals were chaotic. I don't know if we shot anything. We just went rehearsal, rehearsal, rehearsal. I don't recall shooting anything. I wound up like just walking away from the project that supposedly I was going to get paid. And this was when I was like younger. So my pay was supposed to be $300 a day when I shot, and it was awful. I think it was overly ambitious. I don't remember even who produced it. It was just the Hot Mess Express. It was bad. It was bad. And the thing is, I get that it was an indie feature, but I think they oversold themselves. And you're trying to, like, as a creative, be like, oh, it's not so bad. They'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. And yeah, it was just, if I don't know what came of it. I don't even remember. It was just awful. It was awful. And I forgot how I got it. I don't know if it was through backstage or someone goes, hey, you should go. It was awful. Now, the best, I want to say it was a movie, a holiday film I did. And it was my first feature that I was an EP on, called My First Miracle. And it starred Quentin Aaron, Sean Patrick Flannery, Valerie Cruz from The Following, Matt Roush for the people from the Banshee crowd, guy that played Bowtie, and very different role. It was basically kind of Fault in Our Stars. I don't know if you remember that movie. Meeting, I wouldn't say It's a Wonderful Life, but it was that type of film, that it wasn't your typical holiday movie because it was pretty much all the leads were Latino. The director was Mexican descent, and myself being American of Panamanian Puerto Rican descent. One of the leads, Juan Castaño, who's starring right now opposite Lupito Nyong'o as Romeo to her Juliet. Yes, I'm so proud. Like, I feel like a proud Titi. One, it was born in, I think he's from Cali, Colombia. Katia Martin is half Spanish. Valerie Cruz, I mentioned her, she's Cuban descent. And it was just one of those things where it's touched upon that, yes, because it does play into, ethnicity plays into it to a degree, but it's not like, let me beat you over the head over the fact that, you know, this girl is half white, half Latin, you know, type of deal. It wasn't that. It was
Thank
done
you,
very.
Amanda, so much for participating in
you.
the interview, and we hope to see you soon. And
Likewise, I hope to see you, and good luck with this. Like I said, I'm glad that you do this. It should not end here once COVID gets lifted. Keep doing it, and thank you for having me.
yeah. All right. Take care. Have a good one. Be well. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for watching the interviews and this show. Check it out on YouTube with Roman Epic Productions. It's called This Is Your Spotlight, Episode 3. And also, we have it on Facebook. Check out the Facebook page. And of course, on Channel 68 on BronxNet, and also on FiOS Channel 2134. If you have neither of those, check it out online on www.bronxnet.org/arts. See you next time.